Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, Friday, August the 5th. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. Chat room is open. I did pop the link into there to Robert Bernie's webpages, Joy to Me and You, and that's www.joy, J-O-Y, the number 2, MEU.com. And we're looking at the spiritual integration, and that really falls under the inner child healing work that he's got there. And so hopefully, you guys are getting something out of this. I know that I am. I'm doing inner child healing work right now, and that's why I'm looking at this. Robert Bernie, he's got some great stuff there. He's a codependence therapist. He's a grief counselor. He's a spiritual teacher, and he's written a book called Codependence, the Dance of Wounded Souls. So it's a great book. It's an awesome book, and a friend of mine sent that to me, so I actually have the book now. I haven't started to read it yet, but I will probably this weekend get some of that done. But a lot of his excerpts are actually from the book, and they're on the website. And the website, like when you go to the site index, you can see like he has written so much. I mean, he's really prolific writer. He's got a lot of different categories there that we're not even touching on. I mean, we're just looking at, like I'm just looking at the inner child portion of this really, and the codependency part. So, you can go to the site index and see if you can find something there that you may be dealing with. It's really good stuff. So, we'll get right into this. I'm not a counselor or therapist. You have to listen at your own discretion to all of my shows, every single one of my shows. Like I'm talking about abuse. And abuse is a very sensitive subject, and it's a horrible situation for anyone who's ever had to go through it. But it's very sensitive material, and I think that people need to listen at your own discretion. You need to know what's good for you to listen to, make sure it's not going to trigger you or cause you to feel uncomfortable. You have to know what's good for you to listen to before you listen to my shows. I'm talking about abuse, and I just tell it like it is. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't put nice words around it. I just tell it exactly like it is. It's hurtful, it's painful, it's disturbing, it's disgusting, and it's absolutely heinous and evil. So, I just tell it like it is. And so you have to be sure that, you're okay to listen to my stuff. If not, just turn it off. That is your discretion, right? Young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. Have an adult okay it that you can listen to my shows. Have them listen to it with you. If you really want to tune into my shows, if you're an older teen or something and you just want to catch one of my shows, make sure you have someone listen to it with you, like an adult or someone who can help you make a decision, whether you should be listening or not. Because my shows are definitely not for young children, and I put a graphic warning on my show page, and really all of my shows really should be listened to. Really, it's your discretion, and people under 18 need to have permission to listen to my stuff. So thanks very much for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to get right into this, and we're really quite a well way through the page here. I'm looking at spiritual integration from Robert Bernie. And, Robert Bernie, he's very spiritual, and he's really talking about the whole society as being very much spiritually damaged. Like the whole society really is codependent, and so it's no wonder that we have picked up some of these behaviors. It's just because this is the environment we're in. But I grew up in a family that was full of codependence and full of all kinds of really bad behavior systems and belief systems in place. And so, I'm really working to change that for myself. So I like what Robert Bernie has to say. And he says even with his belief system, like Robert Bernie, he says his own belief system, nobody has to believe his belief system. You can still do the work on it. Yet we have to find our own spiritual belief system and then work with it, right? Like he says, just because he's written his belief system down on his web pages doesn't mean that everybody needs to believe what he believes as far as his spiritual beliefs go. And he's just saying that that's just one way to look at it, and it's just his view because he's a survivor too, right? And so this is sort of his journey as well here, part of it. And so, in his recovery. So he says you don't have to believe in his beliefs, to understand what he's talking about. We just have to look into ourselves and find out what our spiritual beliefs are, and what our spiritual truths are, right? So, it's quite interesting what he has to say. Some of it I totally get. Some of it I agree with. Some of it I don't. Some of it I'm kind of, I just read it and I see what works for me, what doesn't work for me. But for the most part, I really like what he has to say. Most of it, I agree with, and I can see where he's coming from. Some of it is a bit over my head. But, some of it just makes total sense to me. So I like what he's written here. So he says, spiritual integration is, in this sense, is our relationship with the whole of the horizontal dance of life. It is very helpful to have a sense of spirituality, a relationship with the dance of life that helps us to start being able to find some balance in our life. And the reason to find some balance in our life is to take away the power from the past and make it possible to make living more enjoyable today and in the future. And he says the whole point of healing and recovery is to help make it possible for our lives to be more serene, fulfilling, and happy today, instead of living life out of the false belief systems we learned as children. So, really, he's just telling it like it is, that's my goal at the end of this, journey. I think beyond this journey forever, my healing journey. But I think as time goes on and time progresses and I do more healing work, eventually I'd like to get to a place where I'm serene, fulfilled, happy today, in my own body, in my own skin, in my own, in my own space in this world that I'm sharing this life experience with everybody that's in this world right now. You know what I mean? And so as the days and months and years roll on, I'm looking and hopefully, looking to make progress, right? And so I do have a goal at the end of this, And so I think it's awesome. I like what he has to say there. And just takes away the power from the past, making it possible to make living more enjoyable today and in the future. And I think that's exactly what it is. Because, 4 years ago, before I started my healing journey, I was very much living according to my past and letting myself make decisions based on my past, right? Like my inner children were actually driving the bus, right? My little 8-year-old inner child was driving the bus. So I was quitting jobs. I was not handling confrontation all that well, with anybody. Generally, I just my confrontation stuff is just like, if I have a confrontation with somebody, I just have to leave. I have to either quit the job or I have to leave the relationship or I have to push the person away, because I never really ever learned how to, that confrontation, doesn't have to end up abusive, and that, as an adult, I have the right to stand up for my needs, to stand up for my rights, without hurting people or myself, and that I can truly do what people would consider the normal things, to get my needs met, right? And so it's been a real learning experience for me. And this last 4 years, it's been a complete learning experience for me, because I had to really work hard to change some of these behaviors and these belief systems, And I still have the tendency, it's all still there, I still have a tendency to push people away. I can easily push somebody out of my life just like that. I've picked up and moved within 3 hours. That includes like shutting down bank accounts, turning in equipment to the phone companies, you name it. I can move in a very quick, short period of time. And that's just myself always being able to be free to run away. Keeping myself, it's like, okay, if I need to get out, I can get out fast. You know what I mean? If I didn't care about shutting things down, I'd be, of course, you could just leave immediately. But, I can completely leave and move cities within a couple of hours, And that's my safety measure. That's my safety factor. It's actually harder for me to stay. I told a friend of mine that about, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I said, it's hard for me to stay. I have to work really hard to stay in a relationship. It's real easy for me to leave, you know what I mean? And so that I don't get hurt, right? Even if I wasn't going to get hurt, it's just my protective measure. It's my self-preservation. So, I'm learning how to change this stuff, and learning that I can stand up for my rights, and I do have rights, and that is my right and my responsibility to make sure that people do not use me, mistreat me, take advantage of me, and or abuse me, right? I have rights. And when somebody's being abused, their whole life, especially all the way through their teens and all the way from 0 to whatever, 17, 18 years old, physical abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and then some of the abuse still continues on all the way through your 30s, which would be manipulation, codependency, not physical abuse so much, but verbal, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, right? That stuff, right? You learn to live these patterns, and they become very ingrained, And so it's really not our fault, that a lot of times that we do these things, we may not even recognize that we're doing them until somebody maybe points it out, or we might see it by reading something and say, "Wow, I'm doing that. That's detrimental to anything." I want to be able to maintain relationships. I want to be able to feel secure in myself, in my skin, in my own abilities to protect myself, right? I was not protected as a child, couldn't count on my family, so who do I count on? Myself, right? Well, what do young people do? Run, right? They can't really protect themselves. So, like as a 30-year-old, it's just not funny anymore to be running, and especially as a 40-year-old, right? You start getting up in your 40s and you're like, man, I've worked really hard to get what I've got, and I don't have much. And just to be leaving it all behind all the time running doesn't make any sense. And again, I need to learn how to stand up for myself without caving in and completely, regressing back in my healing journey and completely, setting myself up for a lot of rage and anger and stuff again, right? So confrontation is a big issue for me, and I'm definitely learning how to work on it. It's been good. Like, I've actually made some progress for sure. Had a situation yesterday, actually. My abuser dad, came over to my apartment while I was shopping. I actually wrote a blog entry about it this morning on Blogger, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. And, my sweetheart let him in because he thought it was me at the door with the groceries. So my dad had come to my apartment, my 88-year-old abuser dad who was staying with me for a year there last year. And he comes to visit, right? Because he knows I'm not talking to him. I haven't called him. I haven't talked to him for a long time. I've cut them off, right? I cut all my family off last year. I cut my sister off last August. It's a year. And I cut my dad off right around October. So, it's been great for me. But they keep thinking that I should be part of the whole dysfunctional garbage family that I always was, right? And I'm done with it. And so there's my abuser dad sitting in my living room. I was just like, oh my God, the amount of the emotional energy, the negative flow, I could feel it. I was like, all of a sudden I was starting to get upset, anxious, putting my groceries away, shoving stuff in the freezer, thinking to myself, why does he insist on this? Why? He knows that we are toxic for each other. He does, he's been abusive to me his whole life. I don't tolerate it, so we end up fighting. And it's like, I don't tolerate it now as an adult. I tell you, I don't take anything from him, and that's why we don't get along. If I was just taking his garbage, it'd be great, right? He'd be in his element, right? But since I don't, it's horrible. It's absolutely, it makes me have to fight like I did as a child just to stay alive, right? And I don't, I'm trying to heal, right? And so, there he sits in my living room. I was just like, oh my God, talk about confrontation. So he didn't say anything. He was just like, I wondered if I'd ever see you again. So I thought I'd better pop over and see you because he was at a doctor appointment really quite close by my apartment. And he says, I'm glad I got to see you. I wasn't sure if I'd ever see you again. And I said, well, Dad, I've cut you all off, right? I cut the family off. And I did it for a reason. I can't hang around and do denial anymore, Like, you all want to just live in denial. That's fine. You can do it without me. But I'm not part of that anymore because I can't. I'm living truth. I'm living, a life of truth, not denial, right? And so I can't hang out with you guys. You know what I mean? I can't do that. Let's pretend we're a family thing anymore. And so he didn't say anything because he's 88 years old and he's schizophrenic and, he's just screwed up, right? So he didn't say anything and he just went on to talk about some of the stuff that's been happening, going on with the family. They're all taking trips and having a great dysfunctional, codependent time together. That's wonderful for them. But I was glad to see that he was okay. See, I don't want to have that, I don't want to wish him bad, right? Because that makes me like him. I don't want to hurt him because that makes me like him, right? I mean, I could have tossed him out of my apartment and said, get the hell out, you're not welcome here anymore. I could have just, gotten mad and screamed at him and made him leave and say, get out of my life. That's what I wanted to do, right? But that makes me like him, right? That's why I don't do that. That makes me like my parents. My parents were extremely violent, hurtful people, and I don't want to be like them, right? But yet, I have to stand up for myself. I have to be able to say, this is my apartment. I don't want you here, So I told him, I said, I can't do this with you guys anymore. You're not really welcome in my life anymore. Like, I've cut you off, and I cut them all off. And I told him, I said, I cut Kathy off, my sister. I don't care. I cut you all off. No longer in my life. So he ate his sandwich, and away he went. And after he left, I sort of realized, I thought, wow, well, I handled that pretty good because normally I would have been really upset and wrecked by something like that. You know what I mean? My inner children would have been screaming, don't let him in, don't let him anywhere near us. It's like, there's the abuser dad. It's like, I'm like, well, he's 88. What's he gonna do? All he does is cause me grief. But see, my inner children are screaming. They don't want to be around him, because he hurt us. He hurt our family. He hurt me. He hurt, I mean, my God, and then my family sits and caters to him and kisses his ass. And, it's not even for money because he doesn't really even have any money. It's just for the few bucks they get off him for gas money and stuff. Like, my sister's so broke, she's like in my situation. I mean, she grew up in the same home I did. And she's screwed because she's not even on her healing journey. But she hangs around him for the few bucks she can get for groceries and stuff, right? And plus, she thinks she's doing the right thing, And hey, whatever. I mean, that's fine. I'm just not doing it, So I actually handled it quite well at the end of the day. I mean, I was a little bit upset all afternoon, and it did throw me back just a little bit because I was down, and I was thinking, this really sucks, I wish I could leave Calgary. See, run away, right? Part of me wants to leave Calgary because my family is here now, and I don't know why they're all here. And it just, they were all spread out all over the place. My brother was here in Alberta, and then I moved up. And, my brother was mad when I moved up. He's like, I don't want you people up here, And then, because, see, we're all screwed in the head, right? We're all messed up from this abusive family, this abusive life we had. And my brother was like, oh, crap, now I got family up here. What a drag. And then after I moved up, my sister moved up. See, that's all the family we have. So my sister moved up to get away from my dad because he was down in the States, and it was too cold up here for him, he thought, his whole life. That's why he wanted to stay down in New Mexico in the desert there. And so she moved up here so that she could get away from him with her daughter, right? And so now she's here. So then my brother was really mad because, like, oh, crap, now the whole family's following me up here, right? My brother thought he had gotten away from us, see? And well, he did for many years. And then my dad moves up. And so now we're all in Calgary. And even my nephew moved up here. So now the whole entire family, offspring of my dad and my mother, are all living here in this stupid city that I chose to live in because I wanted to get away from my family. It's like they just, it's like you just wonder. Like, I know it's not God doing this, right? Because I totally believe that God is good. Right? I do not have any doubt that God is a good God and would not do this to me on purpose. This is just life, right? This is just life. It's like I moved to get away from my dysfunctional, abusive family, and they all follow me. So that's what my brother said, same thing. That's why my brother won't even talk to me. But hey, he's doing life with them. You know why? Because I'm speaking out against the abuse. I went public with our story, and he hates it. He hates the fact that I am screaming out about what happened to me as a child. Why? Because he doesn't care that my brother raped me. No, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that my mother beat the shit out of me. Oh no, he doesn't care about that. Because to me, I'm not his little sister. He was 16 years old when I was born. He doesn't even know me. So why should he care? What should it matter to him? I don't even count in his world. I don't even matter. Right? And here he says, oh, I want to, my dad, when my mother passed away, which is like 16 years ago, I went to the funeral, and my sister went to the my sister was down there in the States, and I went down there to the funeral, and my bro said he couldn't come. My brother, he's like, I'm not coming because if I go to that funeral, I will kill him. I will literally kill him. Like he screwed us over. He screwed our mother over, and he's a bad man. And my brother was like, I'll just kill him. That's what I'll do. So I have to stay here. I can't even go to the funeral. So now what's my brother doing? Taking him on trips, buying him stuff. Oh yeah, that's the way it goes. And totally ignoring me. You know why? Because I'm telling our story, and he's in denial, and he wants to keep it that way. And I'm in his face saying, So see, I'm the black ball. I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm the loser. I'm the one that. And honestly, if you rounded up my family right now, they would say, "Oh, I feel so sorry for her. She's so messed up." And this is it because they want to be in denial. They don't want to admit the truth, right? Even though years ago, actually, before I moved up to Canada, we all spent hours and hours and hours of our life. I'm talking day after day after day, year after year, talking about the abuse, talking about what our parents did to us because we were angry, and we were all angry together, right? Even though some of my family members were still in denial, they would still talk about the stuff that went on in the home, and they would still acknowledge that, yeah, it was horrible, it was bad. That's why 2 of my brothers killed themselves, and we would all talk about it. Now they sit around with their heads up their ass in denial, right? And I'm like, you know what? I have to get away from them. You know what I mean? Like, that holds me in that place, that role that they want me to be in, which is that I'm a loser. I'm just an insolent kid who needed to have my ass beat. You know what I mean? And that my mother, of course she hated me, because why not? I was a bad kid. So she should have hated me. See, that was their take on it the whole time anyway, was that I deserved every beating that I got, which was absolutely ridiculous. You do not treat a child like that. You know what I mean? You just don't. I don't care how badly the child's misbehaving. If a child's misbehaving that badly, check your own behaviors. Children are sponges. They soak up behaviors around them. If they're having behavioral issues, check yourself, right? My parents had everything to do with that, and it was their responsibility that I was behaving the way that I was. I was raped as a child, 8 years old. What did they expect me to do? I what? Sit there like a good little girl? Oh, I was acting out. You bet I was. I saw a picture actually that was taken when I was 12 years old, when we moved over to this other house back onto the street that I was born into and grew up on, Aunt Levita. And I saw this picture, and my brother had come to visit. And you want to talk about sending me into some weird shit. Because my brother, 4 years before, my brother had raped and sodomized me and used me sexually over and over again for quite a while. And, when he came to visit, it sent me into the most strangest, most bizarre behaviors, which landed me quite a lot of beatings, And I thought, no wonder I was acting like that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, here's my 4 years later, my 25-year-old sexually abusive brother who used me sexually in the house with me again. Like, you want to talk about some weird shit. And so excuse my language, but this is how frustrating this is to me, that my family would be able to look at that picture, the 3 or 4 members that are left, and they would say, oh yeah, you were just such a brat. Look at you, you were just such a bad kid. And there's my abuser brother who raped and sodomized me. I mean, my God, you know what I mean? I'm fucking raped me. And then sexually used me. You know what I mean? I mean, my God, like there he is in the picture, looking so cool, and everybody's just so happy to see him, And that my family would have the nerve to sit there today and say anything to me other than something supportive, right? Like this is how sick and twisted this stuff runs, and this is why I'm a little angry today, as you can tell. But this is why I cut them off. And people want to sit here and say, "Oh, don't cut your family off," It's like, "Oh, come on, give me a break." You know what I mean? I should have cut them off years ago, right? I'd have been so much better off. I can't hang around with them. They're completely toxic, right? And yet they would sit there, "I love you. No, we love you." It's like, "Oh, right, sure you do." Right. They know my brother sexually used me and raped me, and they don't care, right? They know that I can't have children, can't bear children because of that stupid the sexual assaults that I went through, And they could sit there and and say that, I was a bad kid. There was something wrong with me. So this is what Robert Bernie's really saying here. There's nothing really wrong with us. It's not, you know what I mean? Like this is really, the shame does not belong to us. The shame does not belong to me. And my abusive family, the reason that I need to stay away from them is because they are toxic, and they are never going to change unless they personally each decide to do it their own healing journey, right? But until then, we're like water and oil, separated, right? Because water and oil don't go together. So I'm on my healing journey doing truth. They're on their regular codependent abusive lifestyle doing denial. And so, hey, I can't hang out with them. You know what I mean? And that's what that all boils down to. But this is the sort of thing that many survivors want to go through. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, so many times survivors do have family members around, existing family. I'm lucky enough that I can tell all mine the truth and tell them to shove it. You know what I mean? Like I can just tell them to their faces to F off. I'm lucky in that regard because I don't have any ties with them, so it's not like there's any children involved or any grandchildren, or, I can just tell them all to buzz off, right? Which is very helpful for me. But not every survivor can do that. For whatever reason, they are intertwined with their abusers, right? And it's pretty harsh, right? This is a bad place to be because we all need family, We all need people that can help us to get through this stuff. And yet I would choose to be alone than to deal with my family. See, that's my choice. I'd rather not have them around, right? And so, like my sweetheart Cecil, like he's very sick. He's terminally ill. He's actually doing really well right now, and he went for a doctor's appointment and had a cancer checkup. No cancer. His liver's holding out. So I mean, But I keep thinking, when he passes away, I'm moving and I'm going to disappear. Of course, they'll always be able to find me because of my public, stuff that I'm doing. But the thing is I'm moving. You know what I mean? And that's a shame because I like Calgary. I like where I'm living, but I need to get away from them. I need to get far away so that they can't show up at my door. You know what I mean? And then be let in by my sweetheart who thinks that it's me at the door. My sweetheart should have told my dad just to turn around and head out the other way, right? But my sweetheart is he's I don't know, he's got his own issues, right? And he certainly hasn't worked through a lot of his stuff either. But the thing is it's like, okay, oh my God, I guess we have to talk to Dad for an hour. I was really bummed out. So that's why you can tell there's a little bit of anger in here this morning. But that's what's going on in my world. This is my world. This is how screwed up it really is. And that now today I got to try to make sense and do something proactive and positive, which I did yesterday too. I did do some work, but I got to try to get myself calmed down again, right? Because each time I see my abuser family, it throws me back into that role of being lesser than, of being the one who was bad. Oh, and for telling my story really bad, right? For telling the truth of what happened in our family. That's just, I mean, my God, you know what I mean? I'm just like a heathen now. Well, I always was, so that doesn't change anything. But for sure now, they probably think I'm psychologically ill, which I'd be perfectly happy to take a test. I would be perfectly happy to take some psychological evaluations because I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? And it's really fortunate that people, families will do that. Families will stick together. Abusers will stick together. And they quite often do, right? Because they don't want to do truth. It's going to be too painful for my sister to have to realize that, yeah, this is exactly truth. Because she knows it. She was there. She knows my mother was being raped. She knows that my brothers were being beat on by my dad. She knows social services was involved. She knows that my mother kept her looking like a boy for most of her childhood. She knows that she used to tape her breasts up so nobody would know she was a girl, right? My sister's very psychologically damaged, and she's in so much denial she can't even face it, Whereas I'm like, no, I'm facing it. I don't care. You guys can all go to hell. And that's exactly how I feel. And you know what? As a Christian, God forgive me. You know what I mean? But that's how I feel. And I can't help how I feel, right? My family put me through hell, and I'm the last born. I'm the youngest. They should have been protecting me. They should have been looking out for me, right? They should have been loving me, nurturing me. They should have been good to me, right? So there I am in their face, right? And so therefore I'm the bad one. I'm the one that's just horrible. And they know the truth. I mean, even my own brother, who's 16 years older than me, the one who's still living, says that, it's a shame that what happened there, He says, well, you never should have grown up in that house. He says, I knew what was going on in that house, but I couldn't get you out because I couldn't even look after myself. He was 16 years old on the street. So he knows. But now, he's doing denial, taking Dad on trips. So see, they won't back me up. They will not come over here and say, you know what, we're backing you up. We'll even we'll even put a little excerpt in one of your books that's coming up that we know the truth and that you are right and that never should have happened to you and it shouldn't have happened to us. And hey, we know, that what you're doing is really trying to work to save your life. And we're here for you. We support you. Will they do that? No. No, they'd rather see me go to my grave by suicide, drug abuse. They'd rather see me have a horrible life. They'd rather see me twist and squirm in front of them, and and look, make me feel like I did as a child. Right? That's exactly what they want, and so they're evil. So to me, they're pure evil, and I can't hang around with evil people. And so they're gone. They are so gone. Right? I will not have any any contact with them. And I told Cecil, like my sweetheart, I said, do not ever let my dad back in here again. Not ever, right? Hopefully, I'm serious. Whether he dies soon or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But I told sweetheart, do not ever allow him back in. Not ever. My family is not welcome around me, right? So, thanks everybody for being here and listening to me go on about this rant here this morning. We'll pick up the rest of this next week, and I hope you guys have a good day. Make sure you keep reaching out, like myself, right? I can't allow myself to spiral down because of this, right? So what I'm going to do today is spend some real time doing some meditation, doing some healing work, listening to some meditation music, just soft, melodies, and thinking about, about how much progress I've made, and really do some work to try to bolster myself up from yesterday, right? And so you do the same. If you can't cope and you're having a hard time, you do the same. You make sure that you get some help, or you reach out, or you do whatever it is that you need to do, so that you can have a good life. You can cope. You can learn to help yourself, right? Because we really have to do this. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great day and have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.